as we move our airport from Love Field to our new regional installation. Our school system is, at the present time, about 50% Anglo and 50% minority. And we're moving to higher percentages of minority students. These trends, as you well know, reflect a worldwide process
It's a real pleasure to be here with you today. And today is going to be a little different talk. Feet were still size 14s, and I wear $20 shoes, real quick. Now, problems. I'm reminded of the real estate agent who decided to be real frank about the house he was trying to sell. I can't deny it. And it has to do between the races. It has to do between religions, too. There's a lot of rich and poor. There's some prejudice there, too.
En route to address the Parent-Teacher Association this morning, Superintendent Truelson discussed the topic of his speech, "We Can Rear Children of Goodwill." He told me that we must learn to respect our children as individuals. Adults must learn what is meaningful to them. He feels that many youngsters today are confused by so much adult hypocrisy. Addressing about 200 persons at the PTA General Assembly's first meeting of the year, Truelson said the school has more responsibility than teaching a student what is in books. Learning for learning's sake does not cut much ice. And he added that pupils must be allowed to experience things without prejudice, at home as well as at school.
If you know the answers to these questions and you've experienced them, then you might be in a pretty good position to say, yes, I'm prejudiced, and I've got good reason to be.
Truelson said that much of today's knowledge being taught pupils is or will become obsolete. That's why the Fort Worth schools are developing curriculum based on criteria other than habit or tradition. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move in Fort Worth.
For the past few weeks, I've been doing a number of reports on the housing market in Dallas, particularly the federally subsidized FHA 235 program. Well, today we have learned through Washington that the Justice Department is putting together a concentrated effort to curb abuses within the federally subsidized program, that is particularly the FHA 235 and 236 programs. They're doing this in 10 of the nation's cities. Those cities include Dallas, Texas. The Federal Housing Authority, which is better known as the FHA, has put together in the city of Dallas a task force of 4 full-time Internal Revenue Service agents and 4 full-time FBI agents, plus 2 other FBI agents part-time. Now, this task force is working under the U.S. Attorney's supervision. Its investigation is probing into 3 areas: abuses within the single-family FHA 235 program, abuses within the multifamily FHA 236 program, and abuses within the Area Management Broker program. Now, the government will not be as interested in the borrower who has lied on his application as they will be in the real estate firms, the mortgage companies, the architects, the lawyers, and the builders who have encouraged those applicants to lie in order to qualify for government-subsidized loan, thus making the sale. An informed source within the U.S. Attorney's Office has told me that some officials of the Department of Housing and Urban Development are also under investigation, and that a number of criminal indictments are reportedly pending within Dallas. This is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Oak Cliff Wets are running against a midnight deadline. The handful of volunteers here at PEP headquarters are making the final push to get enough signatures on petitions so that a local option liquor election can be called in Oak Cliff. They've got 11,000 signatures so far, but they need 5,000 more by tonight. PEP chairman Ed Finstad says the chances of success are slim, but they're not giving up. He's been on the telephone all day calling the 100 businesses in Oak Cliff that are helping out in the campaign.
How's it going? Huh? Oh, yeah. Now, we're doing pretty good, but we need to know right now how many you've got. Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, listen, we'll be picking that petition up, but there'll be somebody to come by.
PEP volunteers are relying on mailer petitions to put them over the hump. Today, only 117 came in the mail. They have to count these mailers and then verify them against voter registration lists. The Irving Wets have already turned in their signature petitions. Over at the county clerk's office, I found them counting the signatures. At this point, it looks as if pro-liquor forces in Richardson might have mustered enough signatures to call for a dry, wet election in that Dallas suburb. The Wets turned in 9,000 signatures, 2,000 more than needed. They'll find out if they won or lost within a few days. Martha McIntire, Channel 8 News on the Move at the Records Building in Dallas.
I was one of only 18 people in the council chamber for the first charter amendment hearing this morning, and half of the 18 people who were there were newsmen. At least all the speakers agreed on one thing: Dallas needs single-member city council districts. But committee members were clearly disappointed at the poor attendance. After the hearing was over, I asked Committee Chairman Russell Smith if he thought Dallasites really want to change the charter.
I've asked the public by sending out letters and other press releases and radio and television releases to send me in writing, if they felt like they could not attend a public hearing, to send me something in writing. And I've received something like 3 letters.
All I know, I was trying to light the hot water heater right in the center of the room there, and all of a sudden, you know, a flame from under the house, just, it's a hole there under the house where your hot water heater has a breather there for air, you know, under the house. And that's where the flame come from, and all of a sudden, boom, up. All I remember now, I was going up in the air and landing on the floor and looked around, everything was down on top of me. So.
We have no choice but to meet the expectations of the middle-class parents, our affluent parents, who insist on a safe and a quality environment for their children, or else we will lose them to the suburbs.
Do you know what it's like to never had anyone to listen to you tell what you did in school today? What it's like never to have traveled more than a few blocks from your home? What it's like to go to a different elementary school every few months as you move from one room or home to another a few blocks away? Do you know what it's like to be hungry most of the time, to feel tired and sleepy in school and not know why? Do you know what it's like to have no one to see that you get to school every day? And do you know what it's like to never have known a kind adult?
Go. All right, how about Pierce?
Yes, no?
Pierce is the next one.
Oh, yeah.
Did we have a Judy?
No,
No, I don't have no Judy. All I got is James Burke.
In essence, is
So the matter of
Hose jacket are two similar couplings are laid in here. They're fitted in. The jacket is started to close, and to complete your closing, you stomp on it. Now, we will have this practical application in the field this afternoon. If you'll all rise at this time, we'll go to the field.
Y'all ready?
develop a portion of land, and that land ultimately ended up being units that were on expansion basis coming from Europe. And what kind of questions do you have in mind?
What are you going to say in your speech?
Washington and his philosophy.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Tim, you want to...
Government is not a vote for a change of leader, rather than a vote for his programs, freedom, and their economic rights. I think just examples of this comes to inflation. They vote to promote inflation by allowing continuing increases to be limited to the protection of individual rights, solely to the protection of the majority of the right to vote away the rights of the minority versus the contradiction in terms. But apparently,
Outgoing Chief Supreme Court Justice Robert Calver today announced what he calls the most significant changes in civil court procedures in the 22 years that he's been there. Well, it's not going to be that noticeable to you and I, but it is going to be noticeable to those who are involved in a court case. For example, the people who sit in the jury box here. It now will take 10 of those people voting the same way to make a verdict in a civil case, even though 2 of the jurors may disagree. Until now, all 12 had to agree unanimously. Other changes will relate to the amount of material that has to be recorded during the course of a trial. It'll be significantly less because lawyers will now take care of a lot of that ahead of time by depositions and by trading information with each other. I talked with Judge Dallas Blankenship. He said that he thinks that there will be a significant reduction in the number of hung jury civil cases. I also talked with Judge Owen Giles, who sits in this court. He said that it will streamline procedures, but he doesn't think it'll make a significant dent in the caseload that the judges have to handle. Those who will notice it most will be those who are actually taking part in the case, because now their chances will be much better of getting by with one trial rather than to have to pay the bills for 2 trials, having a hung jury in the first. This is Rosser McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move at the Dallas County Courthouse.
Actually, he could have had a super game. He was on target. He was keying well. He only threw really one bad pass in the ball game. The tip pass, I think that Hayes, I thought, should have caught the ball, that interception. And the last one, I discount. So, actually, overall, he's played well. He's keying good, and he could play better. But shoot, everybody could play better.
How much better than last Sunday would you have to play in order to beat Pittsburgh?
We'll have to play much better. We couldn't have beat anybody last Sunday, whoever we played. And you have a bad game like that once in a while. When you do, anybody could beat you. New Orleans last year, we played about the same way we played Sunday. Everybody beats you. But we're going to play better this Sunday. It's going to be a heck of a game.
And what we are attempting to do is to get the best combination as far as running and blocking combined in the same backfield. So we have been experimenting, and I would say that in the future you will see more of Alvin Maxim and Wayne Morris in the same backfield.
Coach, that's one of a few unsettled positions. Do you find yourself now 3 games into the season with several positions that are still up for grabs?
Well, we feel pretty confident about our overall ball club at this stage. We feel like we made tremendous progress, but obviously, when we lose a ball game with 4th down and 1 that could have won the ball game for us against Virginia Tech, we can't be overjoyed. And we broke down several times on critical situations in the offensive line. Certainly, our passing game is not to the point that we can expect to win with it.
And we have to improve our passing game in order to complement the fine running attack that we've had. So I would say the offensive line will have to continue to improve. Our passing, particularly the quarterback's part in the passing game, will have to improve. And we will have to continue to come up with the big plays on defense.
I'm kind of looking forward to having a pretty good season this year, Bob, and getting back to Fort Worth to see all the fans that we have down there.
What do you anticipate for yourself in the way of a season this year?
Well, it's hard to say right now, Bob, but I'd like to have more than a fair year and, you know, to help the team get into the playoffs and to take home the Adams Cup this year.
Wouldn't be a bad thought at all. We're gonna have a little bit of competition, say, from Dallas. What do you look for from Dallas this year?
Well, I think we play them Monday night, Bob. I'm not sure, but it's gonna be the old rivalry bit, but I think we're gonna do all right against them.
No worries about Dallas?
No worries, Bobby. No worries at all.
Great year for Fort Worth?
Fantastic.
One could hardly accuse the Fort Worth Fire Department Training Division of not being serious. This classroom is used not only to teach the techniques of firefighting, but English, math, science, and hydraulics as well. It costs the city of Fort Worth about $10,000 to teach these men what they have to know before they can even take the civil service exam. When the men come out of the training center, they have a basic knowledge of firefighting techniques. They work in carefully simulated conditions. The training is with regular fire department equipment, but under extremely close supervision, almost like military basic training. There's an instructor always at your shoulder, correcting, challenging, urging you on. In this class, when it began last June, there were 200 applicants. Out of that number, only 16 ever actually entered training. When they graduate tonight, the class will consist of 11 men, and fire department officials tell me they'll be pleased if 8 of them pass the civil service test and ever make it onto fire department payrolls. Training Division Chief Perry Smithwick is responsible for recruiting minority people for the academy. His efforts include broadcasts on radio stations and articles in newspapers with high minority appeal, personal speeches, and visits. I asked him how it's going.
In contacting, I would say we've had very good reception on the surface, but I would say that our recruitment program has been extremely disappointing because we have any numbers that promise us that yes, we'll be down, we'll make application, we want the job, but then we do not get the applications. We get a very, very small percentage of applications.
Fire department officials tell me they are very disappointed in the cooperation they have gotten from agencies like La Raza Unida, Better Influence Association, and PESO. They tell us they'll send us a lot of applications, we say, but they seldom show up. If you know anybody, minority or not, who wants to join the Fort Worth Fire Department, he should contact the Personnel Department of the City of Fort Worth in the northwest corner of City Hall, lower level. Jerry Taff, Channel 8 News, reporting.
Floyd McKissick is probably best known as the head man with CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality. As chief of that group, he was concerned with confrontation politics of the 1960s. But McKissick told me today that the thrust of racial equality in the coming decade must change drastically.
In the 60s, we were dealing with confrontation politics, and we depended upon our existence, upon the contributions from people, but we never had capital instruments to keep flowing the necessary funds into an organization to keep it alive. And of course, goodness is very fragile in the hearts of people. The thrust now in the 70s has got to change from confrontation politics to economic integration.
And the accidental view of history, which is promoted by people who will tell you that, you know, all of this is just it's just a big coincidence that Sirhan used to go to the SDS meetings, and it's just a big coincidence that Lee Harvey Oswald was a communist, and it's a big coincidence that, you know, this is always the case, you know, and that our various political affairs and foreign affairs And the way history is developed has all happened by a matter of just strange chances that things turn out the way they do.
Well, I feel like that if we don't know by the end of this week, by Friday evening or at the latest Saturday, then we can go on the assumption that we will not be on the ballot, that we will have to conduct the campaign on the write-in basis from that point on.
Mrs. Nathan strikes me really as the last person in the world I'd think of as a rugged individualist. But as a vice presidential candidate on the Libertarian Party ticket, she preaches no government at all. And like the presidential candidate, Dr. John Hospers, she says the nation started with capitalism and free enterprise, and Americans should get rid of the government. She's serious about this, though she says she knows she can't get elected. But Mrs. Nathan is looking toward the future.
If people know about Dr. Hospers and myself, and if they write in our names, and we have a strong write-in campaign going here locally in Texas, and I hope it will get stronger, and we have a write-in campaign in several other states. We're on the ballot in the state of Washington, in Colorado, in New Hampshire, in 5 or 6 other states. This will, I'm sure, give us additional strength on the local elections, and then in 4 years we should be a lot